Picture this, it's 1968, and he is one of the men who had the raised fist on the podium at the Olympics. His name is John Carlos, and he is in Ghana for the first time. Today, we catch him as he sits down with Diallo Sumbry as part of AfroTalks to share his journey, his message, his life as an activist, and what he has to say about the future of how Black unity can actually be achieved, and his message for young people about the future.
Who were some of the people that inspired you? And I ain't necessarily talking about big names, but in your story, what inspired you as you made it to who you are right now?
Well, I guess my biggest inspiration would be my father. My father was my biggest inspiration, and my mom. I saw, a lot of luminaries, you might say, at that particular time. Jackie Robinson, Laura Robeson. I heard about Frederick Douglass, Adam Tate Powell, people who stood up for equality and so forth. They didn't highlight them as they should have at that particular time, but I noticed them. And then I remember I went down to the mosque one time, and a young fella came in. I say young fella, that's my father called him at the time, a guy by the name of Malcolm X. And I heard him on the radio, and I was inquisitive because he expressed himself so strongly in the same vein as my father. With one difference, my father was expressing himself over the dining room table, and Malcolm was expressing it out through the airwaves. So I went to meet this guy. I wanted to see who he was, what he's all about. And I recall when I went down to the mosque, and I sat in the front row with two old men, and I said to him, man, who is Malcolm X? Where's Malcolm X? And they pointed over there, and I looked over there. There was three individuals over there. I said, well, which one? They said, the one with the horn-rimmed glasses. And right away I said, man, that's not Malcolm X. So what are you talking about? I said, that is Malcolm X. No, it's not. Why isn't it Malcolm X? I said, man, he's too light-skinned to be Malcolm X. Understand? Because he was blowing with strong blackness. So I didn't anticipate him being high yellow like he was. Right. But he spoke for like 2 seconds. And right away, my heart got beating real fast because I was excited about the fact it was him. And I think that was like a springboard into my life right there to get things off.
Excellent. Thank you for that. So you are now in Ghana, West Africa. And of course, this is not your first time on the African continent. What are some of the other countries you've had a chance to visit in your career in time?
You mean in Africa?
In Africa, yes. I'm sorry, specifically in Africa.
Well, I've been to South Africa. I've been to Sierra Leone. I've been to, Kenya. Lagos, there. Nigeria, and Senegal.
Okay.
And now Ghana.
And during all of those trips, were all of those trips specifically around athletics, around track and field, or were you doing something else when you traveled to those countries?
Basically, it was, I went to South Africa to represent a master's track and field competition. And then on the way back, I had buddies of mine, such as Ron Freeman and others that matriculated from the States and was working in Nigeria. So I thought it would be nice for me to sneak into Nigeria and surprise them in terms of me making a sneak move. And got a chance to observe Nigeria and was really impressed with the number of people. I was amazed at how many people they had in Lagos itself. You know what I mean? That city looked like they had more people there than they had in New York City. But I got a chance in that 30 days that I was there to be well-versed about Nigeria and had a tremendous time. So from that point, then I started saying, let me go to as many points in Africa as I can make. I just felt sad that it's taken that long for me to actually come to Ghana.
What took you so long to come? I mean, you're here now. We got you. We happy you're here.
Well, anytime I go anywhere, basically is when I'm invited. I never had, the means to just pick up and say, let me go take my wife and I up until this point. We financed ourselves to be here for this particular trip. But anywhere else, I had to have a sponsor. I wasn't the guy in America where they let me make a lot of money based on my history. They did everything they could to try and shut me down, as you know. And any black man or woman that express themselves in terms of true blackness and know their history and try and spread their history to the other blacks, they want to try and shut you down. They don't want you to be able to go out and educate those that might be less fortunate in education.
Right. So I purposely didn't just jump right into what you're most known for and the historical fact of what happened in 1968. And there was so much happening at that time, right?
Correct.
For Black people. And one of the conversations that we often have with people here around what we call the liberation struggle at that time is at the same time that African Americans in the diaspora in America was fighting for civil rights, Africa was gaining independence.
Correct.
And it was all happening at the same time. During that time period, leading up to the moment that I personally believe is just an iconic moment in history, as MLK's I Have a Dream speech, as Malcolm X's Ballad of the Bullet speech, I personally feel like that moment meant just as much to Black people as some of these other moments. In leading up to that moment, how much or did African independence and what was happening in Africa, in America at the same time, what influence a part of your decision?
Well, first of all, you have to realize that between Africa and Black Americans, it was a great divide. We didn't really know that much about Africa. The Africans that came to America, they didn't really have that much in terms of association with us, based on the fact that they taught a very negative sense about us, and we didn't have the means to actually know about Africa or to approach Africa, to come to Africa. Those Africans that came to America, that didn't poison their minds against hanging out with Black Americans. So we had to create that unity, that jointness. And I think that demonstration in Mexico City was that, where we was able to touch the far ends of the earth. Black people was able to express themselves in terms of who we were in America, what we were feeling in America. And then we realized that we had a lot of parallels. What was happening in the continent of Africa relative to what was happening in the United States. They were still trying to divide and conquer. And that rainbow, you might say, that spread from Mexico City straight on into the heart of Africa.
So let's dive into that. Like, was this, how long was this, how long were you all planning? And I know this is in your story, and I know that people have heard it, and I know you've told this a number of times, but I think, I know that it's going to come out with a different kind of energy under the African sky. Like, in this planning, like, did you know that it was a sacrifice? Did you know that, listen, once we do this, I know I'm gonna be marked? Or was that even a thought? It didn't matter. It was just like, this has to be, I want to understand.
Well, let me just tell you before I even get into the story. I actually feel that I was born June 5th, 1945, to be in Mexico City, October 16th, 1968. And I'd say that because when I was a kid, I had a vision. And I tell a lot of people, I've never been a religious guy, but I've always been a spiritual guy. And the Creator gave me a vision of me on a grass field this particular time. And I mean, my wall lit up. Actually, literally, I could touch it. And I'm standing on a box in a grass field. No one's there on this field but me. And I could hear the people, the yippee-ki-yay with excitement in the audience. And no one's out there with me. It must be something I did, because the Creator never showed me what I did. But He just let me feel the vibes of the people. So as a little kid, because in this vision, I was like 7, 8 years old. You get the vibes from the people and you feel like you did something to make adults feel good, so you feel good. So as a youngster, I was raising up on my toes to wave my left hand, and I'm right-handed. But just as I went to wave, my hand locked, just like you see in Mexico City. As you might see it in the picture on my chest. It locked, and people said, well, what happened? I said, man, it froze in time. And they said, why? And I told them, I said, it froze because all the excitement and the happiness that came about instantaneously turned to anger and venom. I mean, they start spitting, they start calling me names, throwing things, telling me where to go. That's exactly what happened 15 years later in Mexico City. I mean, they was excited about us going out there. The minute that fist went up, then all the happiness and joy turned to anger. They start spitting, they start telling us where to go, they start booing. And it made me realize when I was on the victory stand, because I never gave no thought to that. I guess after 3 years after I had the vision, because I was running around singing, I'm gonna be rich and famous. I'm gonna be rich and famous. That's what I used to tell my brothers. And I never thought about it anymore. And when I got on the victory stand and just what was happening was identical to what happened in that vision. So from that's when I came and said I was born June 5th, 45 to be in Mexico 68.
Yeah, in hip hop, they say we seen it like a 20-inch zenith. So you saw, yeah, I'm a Wu-Tang fan. You know, we was talking about Wu-Tang night versus jazz. So you saw this coming, like you. So from that vision, were you able to draw on that vision prior to? Was it like, wait a minute, I saw this before. Like this is it. This is the moment. This is the time.
Well, if you ever look at the picture, the portrait, you would see Tommie had his eyes closed and Tommie's you see a little stress in it. You don't see no stress in me at all. And you see my eyes, you can look at something that caught my attention. And what it was, I was thinking about that vision at that particular time. I thought about that, and right after that, I thought about the fact that my father was in the First World War. He was telling me about all the racism that they had to endure at that particular time. And it was kind of relaxing me to let me know that what God told me in that vision was have no fear. And I had no fear from that day to this day in terms of me dealing with what I think is the truth in humanity. So I've always spoke on it. And I'm perplexed sometimes as to what's wrong with our people, why we are so hatred towards ourselves to the point when you sit back and you think about every black man, every black woman that has put their life on the line and went down in the negative sense. Those that was close up to them, which was black people, were the ones that sucked them in and turned them out and reneged on them and set them up for death.
Ooh. So, like, was there anything in you that said they could kill me for this? Was that a concern? And I'm asking because it seems as though, and I don't know if situations, like if it's all about situational awareness, right? So I don't know, because we growing up now, when we got Wi-Fi, we can FaceTime somebody, you got all of this technology, and nowadays you see some things happening in the community, and the average person's like, well, that's not my business, right? I gotta take care of my family, so I can't afford to sacrifice myself. And I feel like at that time, there were more people willing to make that sacrifice, more people willing to use their voice and to stand up. So leading up to that moment, was this something that others were like, nah, I ain't doing that? Or was there some internal struggle with others, or it was just kind of like, hey, we're going to rock it out?
Well, first of all, we were talking about doing a unified boycott of the Olympic Games. We was trying to get all the black athletes, any other race that was, considered of our plight. They took a vote. Within the vote, they decided they wanted to go to the games. I decided I wasn't going. But the divine came to my mind again and said, John, you can stay home, but the question is, do you think you're going to be represented on the victory stand as you should? Which wasn't going to happen. Because many individuals that could have stayed home as a unified unit, they felt, yeah, I understand the plight of our people, and I understand what y'all are talking about in terms of the boycott. But man, I trained all my life to go there to win that medal. My kids are counting on me to win that medal. My church, my community is counting on me. That was bigger than the true issue. But all we could do was lay it on the table to make sure that everybody understood. So now when it comes to the point where, God told me in that vision, have no fear. So I didn't have no fear about me going to do it, because they had threatened our lives all the way up to that point. If you make any statement, if you step out of line, this is going to happen, that's going to happen. But my attitude was, once a demonstration is done, you can kill me, but you can never kill the demonstration. Mm-hmm. The precedent has been set. Like you sit back and people say after the games, man, you destroyed your life. You really messed your life up, man. You'll never work in America. And I sat back and I looked at him. I told him, I said, well, we're in this race, man. We have to see who gets to the finish line first. Because I sit back and I look at it, and I was telling the young lady today that in my life, through this demonstration, I'm sure it's been the same for Tommie Smith and Peter Norman as well. particularly for black people. We have a tendency to do certain things for our own people, but yet and still we have to deal with certain issues such as jealousy and envy coming from your own people. And when you deal with that for so long, you have to walk through the maze of trying to figure out, why do I have so many people that's jealous of me? Or why do I have so many people that's envious of me? And then I asked the Creator, I said, make me understand. And he said to me, he said, John, it's not that people don't love you, they love you. He said, but they're jealous of you because you have gone through things in life that they would have loved going through, but had fear about going through it. You survived. It's an old saying, you say, brown nosing that you kiss butt. Mm-hmm. And it's our brown nosed, and I gave the white man what he wanted. And here, you were living better than me. You made this demonstration. I thought you was going to be the loser, and here you ahead of me, so I'm jealous of you. And then you walk down the road a little farther and look at this word, envy. And why are you envious of me? And then you say to yourself, say, well, let me question myself, why are they envious? And then it comes back to the fact that as you walk down the road, you realize that on the left side, white man didn't like this black man here. On the right side, that white man didn't like John Carlos. So we equal. But then you go back to the left side and you say, white man didn't like you. And on the right side, it's the white man didn't like you, but he respect the hell out of you, John. And that's the difference where the envy come in. Because now they're sitting back and they're saying, wow, man, not only did they not like me, they had no respect for me. They don't like him, but they respect the hell out of him. So it's about who you are in yourself in terms of your commitment to yourself and to your people.
That's deep. So are both of your parents from Cuba? Is one who?
No, my mom.
Your mom is from Cuba.
Right.
Your mom is from Cuba. And your father is from?
He was a sharecropper from South Carolina.
South Carolina.
Yes.
When was the first time that you knew you could run?
Well, New York police used to chase me. So they could never catch me. They always catch my friends, and they'd have them lined up against the wall, and I would always be in the crowd talking about, what did they do? Why you messing with them? What did they do? And they'd be looking back behind over the wall and look back and say, damn, he got away again. But it was two detectives, Mr. Lester and Mr. Bryan. Mr. Lester was about maybe 5'11". Mr. Bryan was like 6'8". He was a big red bone. And they knew my father. They used to all gamble on the weekends. And they went to my father, because I used to break in freight trains and steal food and clothes to give to people in my neighborhood that didn't have. That's a long story about welfare, and people didn't have food, they didn't have clothes. And
so you were doing this at what? Now, how old were you?
13.
So at 13,
Right.
What made you say, I'm gonna, so you ain't say I was selling it, you ain't hawk it.
No,
you broke in a freight train,
right,
to give to people in your community that didn't have. Now, what could have?
Well, the fortunate thing for me, I had a mother and father in my house. Years ago, it used to be a thing called King Kong. King Kong was like a bootleg liquor. Mm-hmm. If I was to put it in context of the day, it's like PCP or something. You take this stuff and you think you can fly. So a lot of them jumped off the roof, killed themselves. Then overnight, not PCP, but King Kong dissipated. And when it dissipated, in place came this thing called heroin. So a lot of parents, black men in particular, they felt so dismayed because they couldn't be what God intended for them to be based on this prejudice and racism. So when it came to the point where they can go on and take something, a sedative or something, they can get away for it, they thought it was a weekend trip. They didn't know it was going to be 20 years, 40 years, 50 years of the rest of their life. So a lot of the fathers was missing in action. So they didn't have nothing in the house. I remember I went to one of my buddy's house one day, Saturday, and you hear a knock on the door, and we get ready to go to the door, and his mother says, sit on the sofa. We go sit on the sofa, and she goes to the door, and she opens the door. There's a white woman standing in the door. And so she says good morning to the white woman. White woman didn't even respond to her, just walked on by her. She came straight into the sofa we were. She making us move. She looking around. She gets up, and she walks into the bedroom. And I could see her looking all up under the bed, looking in the ashtrays, looking in the closet. And I'm trying to find out, Dorian, what's going on? He said, just be cool, check out. But by the time she got done, it dawned on me that she was looking to see in the ashtray if she saw a cigar butt. She looking under the bed, see if a man's shoes or slippers, looking in the pants, in the closet, see if she had pants or trousers in the closet. Because the law was, if you get a welfare check, you could not have a male figure in the household. That's the way they keep black people suppressed. You ain't have nobody in your house to teach a young boy what a man is really all about. So they broke it up from that perspective. Now, my thing was, when I saw TV, I saw a white boy on TV. They called him Robin Hood. And I was impressed with Robin Hood because Robin Hood showed me at that time it wasn't about man's law, it was about God's law. He said if the sheriff of Nottingham, the king, could put a tariff on the people, that's his turf. My turf is Nottingham Forest. You come through the forest, you're going to pay a tariff here. You're going to pay a toll here. Well, my Nottingham Forest was over there at the freight yards. So when those freight trains came through, I got my boys and said, look, we're going over there to investigate and see what's in the freight trains. Well, when we went in, they had little 8 transistor radios, and they just started coming out with frozen foods. They had a lot of clothes. So I said, we're going to take this clothes or food, we're going to take whatever it is, and we're going to give it to the people in the community. I would give it to them. My whole thing, my payment from them was, whatever you do, then let my mother and father hear about this. Because my old man didn't play. But when he found out, I had to take some knocks upside the head, but I always felt like I could take the whipping and keep on ticking because I knew what I was doing was the right thing to do. So that's how I got involved in running in the whole 9 yards. The police just chased me when I would hit the freight trains. And as he's chasing me, he could never catch me, catch my boys. And then they showed me something. They showed me how smart they were. They said, they went to my father. My father said, nah, that's your job. You need to tell him. He's over at McCombs Park now. They came over to the park. They told my boys to go sit up against the fence. They walked me across the track. As I said, Mr. Lesser was like 6 feet. Mr. Bryan was so tall, I could see the top of the Empire State Building. He's down there taller than that from me, my perspective as a kid at that time. And he said, go on, Mr. Lesser, tell him. Mr. Lesser looked at me, told me, he said, listen, there's been some break-ins in the freight yards. We think we know who's doing it. He said, we can't do anything to him until we catch him. And rest assured, and he took his nose and he busted his nose up against mine and said, and we're going to catch him. In other words, you better slow your roll. So then Mr. Bryan said, go on, tell him the other thing. Mr. Bryan says, Mr. Lesser says, he said, yeah, listen, there's been some break-ins at the freight yard. He said, but the greatest thing is, I want to let you know that you have a talent. So I said to her, talent? What talent? He said, you're a runner. And when he said I was a runner, I smirked. Mr. Bryan smacked me here. His fingers landed over here. Don't you ever disrespect Mr. Lester. I said, I'm not disrespecting Mr. Lester. And the reason why I smirked like that is because my mother was a nurse at Bellevue Hospital. And my mother went to work one night. She used to leave about 10:30. She went to work this particular night, come back about 30 minutes later, stockings torn, legs bleeding. And we want to know what happened. Me and my brother and my father, what happened? Somebody snatched her purse. And young black kids, that was their job at the time. We didn't have a job working, selling papers and nothing like that. So most of them would snatch a woman's purse and run. Well, they snatched my mother's purse and drug her on the ground a little bit, scratched up her leg, and my father had concern. She said, oh, I'm okay. All I need is some Mercurochrome, iodine, some bandages. I'll be all right. My father said, well, Bob, what about your purse? She said, I got my purse back. And my father looked and said, how you get your purse back? She said, I ran him down and got my purse. So when Mr. Lester said that to me, I said, right, everybody's a runner. And then he said, no, you're special. And he gave me a number to the New York Pioneer Club. And I didn't realize until I got there that God had gave me a blessing and said that I could do something, because I never forgot the plight of people that was less fortunate in my neighborhood. That's why I was hitting the freight train. But when I got involved in track and field and realized that I had this talent, it was like God was telling me, say, hey, man, this is your springboard. I gave you something. You see what I gave you? All you have to do now is perfect what I gave you. In other words, be the best you can be. Because the more I got in the track and field, the better I got, the more I had a vehicle to speak on issues I felt was necessary to speak on. You could ask me any question you wanted, but I got the mic to give you whatever answer I want to give. Mm-hmm. So that's what I started doing. And as I started doing, I got a chance to go around the world see a lot of people in terms of how they were living. It gave me a clear understanding as to how suppressed they were treating black people, how divisive they were in terms of separating us from one another, how they took the drugs and put the drugs in our communities, how they took our kids and set them up to go through school opposed to going to school. So I gravitated to these things early in life, but it's very difficult for other black people that's going through so many changes. It's almost like I was on a local train and they was on a bullet train. And I'm hollering certain things, but they can't see or hear what I'm saying because they're going so fast. And that's what we are in life right now as black people. We move into society so fast until we can't slow down long enough to put the pieces together to solve this equation. Because racism and all this is just like a math equation. If we sit down and roll up our sleeves, we can solve it. You sit back and say, we got all black people that want to intellectual. We got this intellectual problem. So we're going to sit down and we're going to talk about how the problems are, racism, bias, prejudice. Well, look, man, y'all sit down. Don't tell me about your ego. I know what the problem is. You're supposed to be sitting down to solve the problem, not tell us what the problem is. But every time we have a roundtable discussion, we have our intellectuals there and they want to flaunt about how intelligent they are. And we know how intelligent you are. That's why you're there. But we want you to solve the problem, not tell us what the problem is. We know what the problem is.
What changed? What changed from the police talking to your parents and telling you, listen, you got a talent, and this talent gonna take you far? What changed from the police having that kind of relationship in our community to now what seems to be a much more tumultuous or deadly relationship with the police in 40 years, in 40 to 50 years, because even though there were some, all police weren't that way at that time. Naturally, you maybe had two officers who saw the benefit in you, but we hear stories all of the time about in the 60s and 70s, the police that were in our community, a lot of them they cared for the community. They looked out for you. They sent you to Boys and Girls Club. Like they like, hey, don't, you can have a better life. And nowadays, it's like the police is much more like an overseer. And it's like, so what changed in time to where now in our communities, the police no longer really benefit us?
Well, you're absolutely right what you said. Back then, the police were foot police who walked to the community. They knew the kids in the community. I remember one time the police told me, when I come back around, you better be moved off that stoop. And a lot of guys was getting ready to move. I said, man, why you moving? We live here. So I told the cops, I said, man, I live here. I ain't moving nowhere. So he grabbed me and would take me to my father. And my father told him, said, well, he's right. He does live here. Why you tell him to move? He's right. And my father looked at me and he said, well, what do you have to tell the police? I told him, I said, he act like he's the kid and I'm acting like I'm the adult. And then the cop he was almost like a family friend. He'd come and eat lunch with us after that. But the essence is they've taken the beat cop that used to walk and get a chance to mingle with people in the community and they put him in cars. When they put him in the car, two in the car, there's no more one-on-one association. It's more like they're riding around like the guy that used to ride in the slave camp, man. He's on the horse, and this thing is to ride around to make sure that everybody's in the stable. And that's what they started doing with the police department. There's no more association. There's no more bonding. There's no more trust. Okay.
Gotcha. So we're in Ghana, and now in 2025, going to the end of 2025, and I'm going to say, since I've moved here, there are so many other diasporans who are living here, and you're going to meet so many different people. I want to hear from you, because someone like you has a unique, no matter how many stories you tell, we'll never really be able to get the essence of your life growing up and that particular protest movement, right? Like, as many times as you tell a story, it's still nobody else can really understand that, right? Because that's, as you said, that's something that God gave you. But we're in Africa now, And sometimes in 2025, and as you get older, people think maybe what happened in the 60s don't matter. Or, even hear people like, oh man, nobody want to hear about that racism stuff. Nobody want to hear about that white supremacy stuff. Don't nobody want to hear about that stuff no more. Like, it's 2025, man. Let's get some paper, right? Let's get paid. Let's do. So now we're here in Africa, and I want to hear from you. What are your feelings about African Americans, diasporans, Africans together, and how you feel like, or what you envision would happen if we really got together?
It's like this, man. It's like if I had a candy store, okay? And this candy store, I have to buy Tootsie Rolls, whatever the candy is. There wasn't no black merchant I could go to buy it. I had to buy it from a white one, okay? But then you sit back and you say, America broke that up. They said the little mom and pop stores they had, they wiped them out. They bought in AM/PM, then they bought in Safeway, then they bought in Kroger. The radio stations, the little local radio stations, we used to have Jocko and the rest of them black DJs. Now they got the white DJs in. So when you sit back and you say, well, where did we come together? We had a connection at one time because the connection was within our community. There's no more connection now. We have no association with one another other than seeing one another on the street. Before, I would say, well, let me go buy my groceries from the little mom and pop grocery store. Well, the white man got A&P market. He'll market thing down 30%. So it's not about making mom and pop be able to survive. It's about me saving that 30%. So let me go to the white man. Well, when you sit back right now, it's like that right now. Before they would give a brother a break or a sister a break that's doing something, and the white man got the same thing going across the street, they would prefer to go to the white people and buy the product than to come to you. Or they would prefer to go to the Asian and buy the product than rather come to black people to buy the product. When you sit back and think about white people, they'll go to white people and buy their product. You might be here, you might even have yours 10% cheaper, but they're going to still go to the white person. We are the only race on the planet that will serve everyone rather than serving ourselves. And until we wake up to this game, they're going to always have capital gain on us. Everybody that you think about that has died, Martin Luther King, like when Dr. King died, a lot of people thought Dr. King died because he got involved in the civil rights activity. He didn't die because he got involved in civil rights. He died because he got involved in the economics of this country. That's why Gaddafi died, because he got involved in economics of this country. That's why the first president here in Ghana died, because he got involved in economics of this country. Okay? He wanted to unite, just like Gaddafi wanted to do. Let's unite all of Africa. So they said we got to go. But why they ever sneak in and take us out like that is because we as a race of people refuse to unite. See, I tell people, I say, they talk about this fist at the Olympic Games. Oh, black power, black power. I told him, I said, yeah, but you don't understand the essence of black power. If you open the fist, there's 5 people of color. Each one of them are frail. If one of them say, if I can move this plant here over to this table here, I can make a tremendous difference for our race. And one of them jumped down and he said, let me do it. And he tried to lift it up and he can't do it, man. By the time he get done, all day he's trying to do it. But someone tell him, say, man, I've been watching you, man. And you know what it is? You got to put your hips into it when you go to pick it up. You got to put your hips into it. He can't do it. But by the time he's done, the 5 of them realize, man, if we come together, the 5 frail individuals, but when we come together, now we become this power force. You see the difference in how your fingers are and how your fist is? Well, that's what happens when unity takes place. You have the power not only to pick that vase up and move across the table, now you have the power to move a mountain. And until we realize that, why you think that in all the things you hear about as a kid, you knew about Willie Sutton in prison, you knew about Al Capone in prison, well, how come you didn't know anything about you in the United States? Understand? You knew about the Indians, and they showed you about how the cavalry was beating up with Indians. They showed you Africa. They showed you white boy Tarzan, him and Cheetah, they running through, and he controlling the jungle. You understand? So everything they showed you that they was in charge. We didn't never take the initiative to say, man, we have to spread the word. It can't be one or two of us know our power. All of us have to know our power. You understand? We can't have Martin Luther King out front. We can't have Malcolm X out front. We can't have Marcus Garvey or Paul Robeson or Frederick Douglass out front or Harriet Tubman. We need to be out front. All of us need to be out front. Because if one of us go, that can't stop the train. We all on the same plane and we all striving for the same thing. When I was a young man and went to the Olympic Games at 23 years old, and I knew I was putting myself in harm's way if you asked, but I wasn't concerned about me being in harm's way as much as I was at 23 years old, concerned about a better life for my kids. And I think that's what we lose. It ain't about the sacrifice that we make. It's about what the sacrifice is all about. Why are you sacrificing? For your kids to have a better shot. If not, you can live 50 or 100 years. And if you have to sacrifice anything, your kid gonna come back and he won't even be able to touch where you went in life. Think about what they're doing now. Not just here in the continent of Africa, but think about what they're doing across the world. And particularly in the United States. They're trying to push us back to slavery. Why are they trying to push us back to slavery? Because in 1968, when me and others stood up and said, it's time for us to rise, it's time for us to unify, it's time for us to make our statement in society, we chose not to do it. For 57 years, we chose not to do it. And this is the end result, what you see right now. And when they suppressing us right now, we don't even know where to go, who to see, or what to do. And here's something else. If America right now got to the point where black people say, man, we got to get out. Well, a lot of Africans, their parents are doing pretty well in the oil field and so forth. Hey, Papa, I need a ticket to come home. You got a ticket, son. The Arab, hey, man, we need to go. Arab, he got a ticket. The Puerto Rican, he got a ticket. The Jamaican, he got a ticket. The Jew, he got a ticket. What about the American black? Where's your ticket? Well, I can get a ticket too. But you know, in 1955, the average black family didn't have $50 in their bank account. I said 55, this is 2025. The average black family don't have $200 in their bank account today, if they have a bank account. So how you gonna go anywhere if you need to go? Where are we gonna go and how are we gonna go? So it's a matter of us waking up and opening our minds and say, hey man, let's roll up our sleeves, let's solve this equation. We had Black Wall Street. That's just the tip of the iceberg in terms of our greatness after we left Africa and migrated to America. That was the tip of the iceberg. But they destroyed Wall Street and so many other others such as that. Why is it that we haven't built Wall Street back again? All this time later. One more time. Because we are divided. And until we realize who we are, and at the same time realize that life is about a sand clock. And the sand is running. Like I tell kids in school, man, you in school, I said, that clock on the wall, I said, every time I make a second, a revolution, that little red dial go around, I said, you inching that much more. And they said, what do you mean we inching? Yeah, you inching to the other side of the bridge. What's on the other side of the bridge? Adulthood. You only have a certain amount of time to learn certain things in life. If you miss it, it don't stop the train. You're still getting old. You still got to be the provider. You go through school opposed to going to school. It don't take no Phi Beta Kappa to make a baby. You're sitting there making a baby, but it takes a man to raise a boy. If you ain't got nothing on the ball and your baby's in the crib and he's crying and your woman looking at you about, oh, well, why does that baby keep crying? Well, baby, the baby's crying because he's hungry. The baby crying because he ain't got no pampers. What are you doing? And you know what happened with us as black men? A lot of us realize now, I didn't go to school. I went through school. So only thing I know now is that my pride is hurt as a man. I feel real low. So I'm in a desperado situation. So now I'm going to take the pistola and I'm going to wait in the bush for somebody to go to instant teller. I don't mean to kill nobody. I don't mean to hurt nobody. All I mean is to try and do what I need to do as a man to give my baby what he needs. Now you done shot somebody by accident. You going to jail. Kid don't have no father. Your woman don't have no man. You incarcerated for 20, 30, 40 years, and it's a cycle. When the boy don't have no daddy in the house before too long, daddy been in jail for 30 years, now here the son 15 years later, he coming to join daddy in jail. Where are we going to break this? When are we going to stop this? You know, like I said, it's 10 o'clock. People like me, I'm getting ready to check out soon. I don't see no whole bunch of young brothers stepping up that got their heads screwed on tight right now in terms of saying we got to deal with this issue. You know, I'll tell you this. I sat in my house one day and I said, God, make me understand, because we're the same blood. I don't understand why we going through these changes. And God said to me, he said, John, listen. He said, imagine you being a black rat and you're in a white man's house. He said, you scurrying through the house and you're looking for a little cheese. You ain't bothering nobody. You just looking for a little cheese to eat. But the white man see you out the corner of his eye. And the first thing he does is says, I'm going to set a trap. He sets a trap and he got you in a corner. He says to me, he said, now what are you going to do? Are you going to sit there in that corner and be meek and let him destroy you, take your life? Or are you going to lunge out of him to protect your life? I thought that was deep. He said, well, it's deeper than that. Walk down the road a little more. He says, two parallels. He said, it was a guy named Rodney King in L.A. He said, the police had him in a circle and they was beating him, they was kicking him, they was doing everything to him. He said, step back, you too close to the picture. And I stepped back and I noticed a whole bunch of black people around the police. They taking pictures, they shooting film. Then none of them go to the police and stop them from beating that man down. He said, wait a minute, go down to the next parallel. I looked down, there's a guy named James Floyd. He on the ground, police got his leg on his neck. He said, I can't breathe. I can't breathe. And at the same time, you sit back, when you step back, you realize that they got a group of black people around him too. And they taking pictures. So God told me, he said, son, I want you to realize that you tell black people that my job is not to come from the sky as you've been taught. I'm not coming out the sky to save you. My job as your Lord and Savior is to save your soul, because that's the everlasting life. He said, but relative to your flesh and blood, that's your responsibility. Okay? One more time. That's your responsibility. I remember in the civil rights era, they had a black woman. This black woman was standing there, they had the dogs and the water holes, the whole 9 yards, and they didn't want this woman to move. And the woman went up and they knocked her down to the ground and they grabbed her by the crown of her head and they was dragging her. Mind you, this woman is pregnant. And I'm watching this on TV, and they drug about 2 black men standing there. And they stood there like 2 mannequins. They didn't flinch to try and push the police off her. They didn't do anything to try and protect her. You know what long ago that was? That was in 1955 when I saw that. Here we are in 2025. And those black men are still standing like mummies and stuff and refuse to do anything to help the sisters. How many times you saw Harriet Tubman stand there where she had a black man standing next to her? Any picture, show me a picture where you saw a black man standing and say, I got your back. Wake up to the game, guys. It's a game. And the only way we're going to win the game is for us to realize that we in the game.
So would you ever consider, in this late age, moving to Africa or spending more time here and coming just like, just making it a part of your everyday? Is that something that's possible health-wise and everything for you to say, you know what, we going to be over here?
Something I said to myself, I would love to come here. But at the same time, I'm not going to be naive to say it's that easy for me at 80 years old to just pick up and move. Mm-hmm. But what I would like to do is say, if everything was possible for me, I would like to get some land here, because I'm always thinking about my kids' kids. Maybe one day they will come back here to be back home. When they come back, my soul is coming back with them. Mm-hmm. You understand? So that's the main thing to say, man, I want them to have that transition where they can make the move to come back. If I couldn't make it, they know they could make it. I mean, I've had like Ron Freeman there, the Olympian. Ron left the United States.
Ron, please put your hand up so everybody can see. Ron is now living in Ghana.
Step up. Don't put your hand up.
Yeah.
Step up. Yeah, he like applause, so that's good. Give him applause. He like applause. But Ron and others left the United States years ago and went to Nigeria, worked in Nigeria for years, such as Archie Moore worked in Nigeria for years. And these guys came back home and actually fell in love with Africa. Most of them that was there, they died. But they didn't come back to America to be buried. They said, man, I want to be buried in the motherland. And I'm sure Ron has the same attitude that when he leaves this world, he want to be buried in the continent of Africa. Myself, I don't want to be buried. I told them cremate me and take my ashes and throw them back in Harlem because I want all the white people back in there. I want to be in their cereal. I want to be in their flower pot. Understand? I want them to suck me up in their nose. You understand? Hey, I'm committed. You understand? Don't put me in the ground. Burn me. Make sure I got a lot of ashes. Take me up in a helicopter at night. And when you get over Harlem, unscrew the cap and let it fly. Understand? That's how I commit time in terms of my blackness. Understand? And I tell people, I say, listen, when I was in LA, the police had me one time and they had a chokehold on me. They was choking out a lot of black people at the time. They choked me out. And I remember telling the police, say, y'all made a mistake. And this is how committed I am. Y'all made a mistake. And they looked at me, what do you mean you made a mistake? And you hear me straining to talk now. They put the choke on me so bad, it messed up my vocal cords at that time. And the sergeant said, let him go, let him go. What do you mean we made a mistake? Yeah, man, you made a mistake. What's the mistake we made? You came here today and you don't have your hoods on. I'll see your face. I say, so let me tell you something. I was born dead. All black people were born dead. We fighting for life. You understand? So I told the cop, I was born dead, man. I don't have no misgivings about leaving this world. I said, but let me tell you something. The mistake you made, you let me see your face. Wherever I go, I know you coming. I'm going to wait for you. Because I don't ever want you to think that it's over until we have some equality in this life. Understand? We got to make a commitment like that to let them know, man, I'm not afraid to die. But like the man said a long time ago, you will stand for something or you will fall for anything. It's a fact here. There's truth to that. It's time for us to start to step up. It's time for you to make it your kids understand. And the lady asked me today, she said, well, John, where do we start? I said, relative to our history, we got to start at the adolescent age for little kids.
Yes.
They got to let them know about the kings and the queens came out of Ghana.
Yes.
They got to let them know that we had the riches of the world. We had so many riches that we was giving people gold because we had so much. We got to let them know at the same time, Shaka Zulu, one of the greatest warriors of all time. Why did he go? He went out because his brother that was closest to him, dimed on him and turned him in, set him up. Mm-hmm. That's the tip of the iceberg. We got to weed these things out. And if we don't start teaching our young kids about how we were divisive towards one another, it's like that dog chasing his tail. He's running around all day trying to catch his tail, never accomplishes nothing. He's tired as hell at the end of the day.
You know, AfroTalks was created because there's a visionary young man here named Bright who started in Ghana with TEDx. And they did a TEDx program or two, and then he realized that, you know what? These people not really interested in telling our story the right way for us. We got to tell our own story. We got to create our own platforms to tell the stories about the African dream. And I believe that the African dream is the African American dream, is the Jamaican dream, is, you know, if you're a black man, you're an African. So I just feel like it's really appropriate here to have this conversation in Ghana on the AfroTalks platform, because one of the things that people find when we research you is that you have no problems telling your story. In fact, you almost demand that I'm gonna tell my story my way. I want you to hear it from me. And nowadays, it's all about content, and it's all about content creation. So I want to thank you for the time that you've given us here today, and just the I'm going to say the openness with which you continue to share, the fervor with which you continue to speak with, And I think we all can feel the energy from you that you've only gotten stronger since 1968. that they definitely had scared you away. And what I'd like for you to close out with us on is there's a lot of statistics about how in 2050 Africa is going to have the youngest continent. And I think 50% of the world's population will be in Africa and under 18 and all of these things. And then at the same time, we have these diaspora wars going on where African Americans are saying, it's you spoke on it already with the divisiveness where African Americans say, oh, keep them Africans over there. And then some Africans are saying, oh, you black people coming over here driving up our rent.
Right.
So is that conversation is going, and most of us that are here today are fighting against it. But I would love for you to just kind of share your vision, specifically when it comes to the responsibility of these young black athletes, many of which are coming from Africa. What do you feel is the response, or do you feel that these athletes have a responsibility to speak truth to power, to, number one, take care of their family, speak truth to power, share, and help build that bridge across the world with black people all over the world?
Okay, everybody remember a guy named O.J. Simpson?
Yes, sir.
Okay, O.J. Simpson made a statement, a profound statement. He said, I'm not black, I'm O.J. When you sit back and you think about athletes of today, they have that same syndrome about them. I'm not black, I'm a rich black. So I put myself above the average black person. They realize that they have money, but they don't realize anymore where they came from. They don't realize what they were before they received that money. So when you sit back and say, well, how many of them would want to come to Africa? Most of them don't want to come to Africa. They're looking for this American apple pie. They don't think about, let me go back home. And that's something that I anticipate doing in terms of I have a TV program that's going to be running through the continent of Africa soon called Sports Inside and Out. And we're going to be talking about the legends of Africa, be it legends in athletics, being legends in literature or science or math or whatever it is, the genius of Africa, we're going to put on the front table and make sure that we build that bridge back to the United States and let these athletes know, in order for you to find yourself, you have to go to Africa. Because obviously you're having a hard time looking at the man in the mirror here in the United States. So you need to travel to Africa and get a chance to see and feel the vibes of Africa. You understand? To feel the blood of our people on the shores of Africa that didn't volunteer to go get on no ship to come to here to set it up for you. They were born here against their will. And at the same time, when you sit back and you say, well, if you could go back and look at the arenas that happened in Rome, what you doing on the football field or what you doing on the baseball field or the basketball court is no different than what we did in Rome. You sit up in the stands, you didn't see no whole bunch of us up in the stands. We was always in the gallery downstairs fighting lions or fighting one another, putting on the show for them. And I try and tell people, I say, when you sit back, what you said earlier, it's about money. They done trained us that it's all about the money. Say your mother, say your father, say your kids, make sure that you get that dollar. And I try and express to people about money, black people in particular. I said to him, my man, you think you got a lot of money because you're a professional athlete? I said, I tell you what, take a walk with me. I said, you got a beach, you like any beach? Pick a beach in your mind. I said, let's go. I said, now we on the blacktop. I said, man, open your hands and tell me how much money. I got a lot of money. You got buku money? I said, well, take that money and put it in your pocket. Let's go over to the sand. Every grain of sand is $1 million. I want you to take 2 hands and get as much sand as you can. And let's walk back over to the blacktop. Look at your hand. You think you got a lot of money? Man, I got more money than I can imagine. I said, well, look over your shoulder where you got it from. You understand? So what I'm telling you is that money that you think you got is token money. That's tip money relative to the money that you made for them that you left on that beach. And until we wake up to the game and realize we'll never have ours if we keep feeding them. We sit back and people talk about, oh man, what they did to us in slavery, they did this in slavery. I tell them, I say, man, they enslaved us 400 years, 500 years ago. You using that as a crutch. I said, man, we know what they did to us in slavery. What are you doing to us now, to yourself? You understand? We, one more time, have to wake up. They're not waking up. They're not trying to wake us up. But what they say is, we don't have to tell you about who you are. We don't have to call you nigga no more because you so busy calling each other nigga. Okay? Richard Pryor came here to Africa years ago. Richard Pryor said, you know something, man? I was in Africa. All that time I was there, I never heard the word nigga one time. He said, I never saw black people hating black people like I see in America. You know how quick they package that up and bury that, what Richard Pryor said? Mm-hmm. Because they don't want you to embed that in your mind just for you to think about. And if you don't think about it, you have no way of putting it to your kids for them to think about. Remember what I said one more time? The sand clock is running out. The Creator said the meek shall inherit the earth. Nobody more meek than us on this planet. But what he didn't say is how much time you have left to inherit it. So we better get busy. The writing's on the wall. Like I said, I'm getting ready to get my wings soon. So, y'all still got some time. But you better try and step up because remember what I said? It ain't about your life, it's the life of your offsprings. Those young kids that you have and their kids, it's about their life.
Thank you so much. Brother John Carlos, on behalf of AfroTalks, on behalf of Chateau Nana Waline here in Chado, Ghana, on behalf of everybody that's here and everybody that's watching this, we want to say thank you. And there's something that they do in African culture when the elder, when they touch your feet and touch your ankle as a sign of respect, just to let you know that it's as much as possible, we want to try to gain the wisdom of our elders. We want to hear all the stories. We want to hear what you say, how you say it, even if you say it 3 times, as much as possible so that we can take that with us. So what I hope is that everybody who watches this, and even African youth and the other athletes that you're going to speak to later on in this trip, and other people who run in track and doing other sports, that they can hear from you that they still have a responsibility. That with that talent comes a responsibility. It's an enormous responsibility. I could sit here and talk to you for hours because I got a whole section that I didn't talk to you about that I wanted, but I'm going to let that go. And I know you want to bring...
Come on up here, Ron.
Brother Ron, come on up.
2-time Olympian, he's a 16 Olympian, 1600 meter relay gold medal.
Come right here, bro.
Bronze medal in the 400 meters. Man, we gonna let you on stage no more. So, hey, listen, so this guy here, I kind of grew up with him. He had to remind me that we started out in the sport together. I'm out of New York and he's out of New Jersey. We came to the sport together. He's been a very good friend for many years. I don't know whether I would say he got tired of New York or New Jersey, but he came to Africa and fell in love with it, and he does some great things here. He's just moved here to Ghana. This will be a year now. So I'm really trying to get him embedded here, to meet some people here, to do what he can do to try and help some of the youngsters here in this country, because I know he does fine work for young individuals. So I would hope that Ghana would open their arms to him and lend support to what he can do to help him.
Thank you so much. You want to say something?
I'd say this is an honor to be here. This is the first time we've been on a stage together of any type in many years. I respect this brother so much because of the things that he did on the Olympic stand. In Mexico City, we had a meeting about, are we going to do something or not? And for a year before the Olympic Games, we were in discussions. And so certainly, anybody that did something knew that something they can, repercussions can happen to them. But after John and Tommy did their things, we knew that things were going to come down on the other side. The things that he told you is true. The things that this man has gone through, not being able to feed his family, not being able to get a job, it hurt him a great deal. The first things that happened to Black Americans in America, the worst thing that happened was desegregation. And that really hurt us because we stopped working together. I'm in Africa because all the years that I've spent in America, I'm bringing all that information and I'm giving it to African youth. My thing is African youth and particularly girls. I spent 20 years in Guinea with a major organization, and I've done many organizations and many programs. And this is my last chapter in my book to do what I can do for youth in Ghana. Ghana is a beautiful country. Ghana is a wonderful country. Ghana is the door to Africa. And Ghana, I'm really going to spread the word, as I've always spread the word about the people in Ghana, the wealth of Ghana, the youth of Ghana. And I really hope that there are youth watching this show because there's so much that they'll get out of hearing John talk. And I have coaches in America wanting to hook up with coaches here in Ghana, track coaches, because they're working with kids from Ghana, and they want to hook up with the organization.
Let me add a little bit to that. I spoke earlier about the program that I'm doing. Now, we have so many great legendary people out of Africa in terms of history, whether it be political legends or icons, but very, very few of them are recognized. Here in Africa, they're not recognized as much. In America, is almost null and void. My program that I'm getting ready to come here and do is to resurrect all of the greatness this country has to offer and the history that it has relative to people that came from nowhere, like I came from nowhere, to be a marquee person in this society in which we live, to bring them back to life, to let these young African kids know, men and women know that, hey man, you are, like Jesse Jackson said, somebody. It's been proven that you're somebody. This land that you have right now, Africa is waking up to what they have, and they're waking up even more to what has been stolen from them. At the same time, while you're waking up, we starting to get flickers of waking up in America is the same. The only difference is you own your land. We have no land. We was existing there because they needed us to build their cities, to build their White House, to do everything for them. So we don't own anything. And the bridge that we had to come back home, they destroyed it, as we spoke on earlier. Oh, the Africans don't particularly like Black Americans. Black Americans don't particularly like Africans. All that needs to be buried. And until we get ourselves together to straighten this out and put it on the right page, we're going to always be running around, like I said, that dog. So once again, open your arms to my brother. For those of you that are out there that might be in position to support him while he's here living, I pray that you will do that.
Thanks. You know, one of the things that excites me about being here,
What's that?
I walk down the street, I go into a supermarket or a mall, and I know I can see a person that can win a gold medal in the 100, the 400.
Right. Right.
I can just, you know the physique, the size. I see that here. I see him walking the street.
Raw talent.
Raw talent here in Ghana. And I just hope that Ghana gets together. I'll give them some words. The Track and Field Association, they can be ready.
Maran,
Be ready in 2028.
That's great. The athletic field is a great opportunity. But man, we have so much depth more than just athletics. I mean, we have geniuses here on this continent.
So much.
Genius. From South Africa, East Africa, West Africa, we just have enormous talent here that's going to waste until we make this connection and bring it back to what it should be.
I do a lot of work at the University of St. Louis.
Right.
Outstanding institute. I'd love to go down there and talk with students down there. I mean, the Intelligent Ed University of Ghana is something else that's special. So thanks, John, for introducing me. I'm here and blessed to be here.
It's the mental picture. I've seen the Eiffel Tower, and it's not like what I am looking at because there were different perspectives to it. It's different seeing the actual thing, and it's another thing being told. So we need to tell our story well, and that's why we are on the journey of AfroTalks. We are here to tell the African story. They are very valid. The African dream is valid, and we know a lot of you here are from the older generations, like himself, and we are promising you that we are going to take over the mantle and make sure our stories are told properly and make sure the African dream is very valid. Thank you so much for coming, and my name is Bright.
What an awesome episode. Hearing a bit of history from these two gentlemen right here in Ghana. Thank you so much for watching. I appreciate you. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.